Welcome back. In our last video, we cut out the main body shape for our stabile sculpture. Now, in the last two sessions, we talked about triangulating the base of our stabile sculpture in order to have a nice, strong shape. We talked about triangles and how they're really stable, but this, since it's cardboard, once we put any weight on it, it's going to want to open up. So we're going to make this stabilizing piece here that's going to be slotted inside of your sculpture like this to hold your cardboard from opening up as the weight from the top is applied onto your stabile. Alright, so at the end it's going to look something like that, and it's going to have that cross piece in there. Alright, you can check out one of the other videos of other designs when I post them. Okay, so here is what we're looking for. Here's my main shape, and you can see how I've got two slots here and here. Okay, then here is my stabilizing piece, and you can see how I have a slot here and here. And once I bend this, this piece slides in like this. Okay, now the trick is going to be figuring out how all of this is going to go together. So, getting started, you already have your main piece like this. Then what I'd like you to do is draw in your mains or your slots where you're going to want your cardboard to line up. So I'm going to draw one right here. The little slot should be no larger than the thickness of a piece of cardboard. So if I were to take this cardboard here and line it up with that, it should be as thick or even a little bit thinner so it's nice and tight when we get done. Okay, so do that first. Then slice those out. This is my 9x6 piece of cardboard there, but we're just going to take these and slot them out. This is going to help us do the measuring to get our slots in the exact right place. As you use your safety razor, make sure that you're safe with it. Safety first. Make sure you have your blade locked and that your non-dominant hand is out of the way. And make sure that you get those slots cut all the way onto the back. Then just peel the cardboard backwards and forwards like this, and backwards and forwards like that. Okay? Alright, I'm just going to leave those. I'll cut them off in a minute. Now you're going to take your design. Here's my design. I had this kind of curvy design, and this is what I had drawn onto my planning paper. Okay, so this planning paper that you have at your table, you're going to actually lay it on top of your cardboard. So take your planning paper and design what you want. Now I want to kind of stick with this design. Okay, but I'm going to have to measure things out a little bit. So first of all, you've got your planning paper, you've got your idea in mind that we're going to have to tweak and adjust ever so slightly. What you're going to do is you're going to take your main piece and you're going to fold it so that it's almost a right angle, maybe even a little more acute than a right angle. Then take a ruler and just measure the distance from one slot to the next slot. If I measure those two, it's approximately 3 inches on center. Okay, so I'm going to make my distance 3 inches. So if this is 9, and I divide into the half into 4 and a half. I want to have my slots 3 inches apart on center. So I'm going to put 1.5 because that's half of 3. And I'm going to make a mark here and make a mark here. So these little marks here and here, that is where I want my slots to end up. So I'm going to keep with my original plan here in having this be a curve. Okay, and you'll see if I place this curve here, my slots are going to be on that 3-inch mark. Okay, so I'm going to take my main curve here and curve it up and line it up so that it ends right next to that X, and line it up so it ends up right next to that X. Okay, so this is going to be my slot. Here's my slot for the bottom piece, and here's my slot for the bottom piece. And then I want this to curve back out, and these will help kind of stabilize my shape. maybe like that, and maybe like this. So looking a little different than my other model had been. You can stay super true to what you had if you like it. You can alter it ever so slightly if you want as well. Okay, now that I've got that, I'm going to cut that piece out so that I can properly trace it. We don't have a light box that can shine through our cardboard, but this is just a simple piece of paper, so it should be okay. I'm going to stop right there just to give myself the freedom of adjusting that if I don't happen to like it. Alright, now there's my piece, and if I use this template before I start cutting, I'm just going to bend this and see how that looks. Oh, that's perfect. Exactly. Now the trick is getting this to be exactly the same. Now if I take these curves and draw these curves on here, it's going to give me the height of how tall that is. Okay? So this little slot should really be down much, much further, which is fine because I can just take this and curve it down in like that. Alright, and you'll see that this distance should should fill up this distance here. So if I take this and kind of measure it down, it should be the same height as that curve. Okay, so if I take the height of the curve, my little slot should be about this long to match the height here. And then the two will slide together. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to trace this out. And then cut it. Keeping in mind that these little pieces are going to come down here, and I'm actually just going to put two little dots by pressing through my paper. And I've got these two little dots here now to tell me how far down my slotting is going to go. Keep these pieces, set them in your folder, and make sure that before you start cutting, you've got your cutting mat underneath you. Safety first. Be careful with your razor blade. Make sure that you're going slow and carefully. Make sure that you're cutting through all three layers separately. Don't try to cut through all of them at once. Make at least 3 passes through. And if for whatever reason your blade comes unlocked because you bump it or something, make sure that your blade there is locked. Now as you're planning this out, keep in mind the original design. Keep in mind the things that you would like your artwork to look like, so that not only your artwork looks nice by the end, but it has a good feeling of unity to all the pieces, and of course it's stable as well. And that's going to be those challenges that we originally alluded to with this project. Making sure that your project looks nice and has unity, and at the same time making sure that it can support its weight and be balanced. Those are supremely important. Notice how many times I turn my piece of cardboard so that my cutting is comfortable and safe. Flipping this over, tracing my little outlines on the back just to make the paper easily pull away from itself. save these extra pieces for later, and this piece should be about right. Now if I go back here, here's my two little dots. I didn't cut them all the way down because I just wanted to make sure and double check before I really started going to town on them. Alright, so that fits beautifully. But again, this is way too tall. You'll see it flips back and forth. And I need to take off, yep, just about what I estimated on here. So I'm going to bring it down to these two dots so that, and what I'm doing is taking this, basically taking this distance here from where I want the slot to start to where the base of this is, right here. So this distance is how far I need to go down. And as I'm not measuring it, it might be a little inaccurate, but again, adjusting it as you go is going to be the paramount in this lesson. Alright, that should do it. And that is, oops, still a tad too long, or not deep enough. So at this point, I think I'm going to leave this one a little bit longer, and I'm going to pull these ones up a bit, just to make sure I don't weaken this piece too much. Okay, so if you're in class and you're wondering how to make that choice, you can come to me and I can help you make that choice. But the thing is, you don't want to weaken either of the parts too much. You don't want to have your sculpture be, or the main body piece be too weak, but you don't want to have your stabilizing piece be too weak either. So you're going to have to, be careful with that and make sure you don't weaken one or the other pieces too much. Alright, now last time, I hope. Perfect. Now that piece is nice and stable. This one is holding, the stabilizing piece is doing just what it's supposed to, stabilize it, and the triangulation on the base here is really nice and solid. Okay, now at the end we might take some time to attach these and glue them together somehow, but for now we'll leave them apart so you can disassemble your sculpture like that and you can set it back into your folder. So that is how to make a stabile base piece for our sculpture.